Hello there, and welcome back to my series on my time in the Caucasus. This episode wraps up my time in Armenia, so without further ado, let's get to it. I started off with a much needed healthy breakfast, then... okay, past me. You do the honours.
Good morning. It's now my third day in Armenia, and I'm heading somewhere today called Khor Virap. So let's go.
Let's go indeed. Out of the door, but with a 5-minute walk to get to the car first. There's a view across the neighbourhood I was staying in. I had to cross a busy road to get to the car, and if the geography of me getting to the car doesn't appear to make much sense, don't worry, it didn't in reality either.
It is sweltering today.
Yes, it was bloody boiling, but I made it to Khor Virap. You can see Mount Ararat in the distance, which is actually in Turkey, and is said to be where Noah's Ark ended up after the floods. On arrival, you're bombarded with the usual stalls selling trinkets and the like to tourists such as myself. I already had an Armenia magnet, which you'll see later, so there was nothing else here I really wanted. These dogs had the right idea. Definitely a day for being in the shade. After taking in my surroundings, I headed into the monastery. The first building here was built in the year 642, but like the Geghar monastery in my previous episode, what stands at the site now is more modern. I say modern, 1662, but that's closer to now than it is to 642. Not surprisingly, the inside of the main building was beautiful. Many Christians visit Khor Virap on a pilgrimage, and it's easy to see why. Birds everywhere, not sure exactly what type though. I caught sight of an abbot walking around the grounds, confirmed to be an abbot by this convenience sign, and here's a photo I took of him. This chapel area was off to the side of the main building, and I kept seeing people look down something in the corner, so I thought I'd have a look as well. Didn't look very inviting, but people were coming up and down the stairs, so I thought, sod it, why not? And this was what was at the bottom. Not a whole lot to look at, and probably not worth the climb down and back up, to be honest. Back at ground level, I went to explore the immediate surroundings a bit, starting with seeing what the view was like up this small hill. Pretty decent as it turned out. Nearing the top, I got chatting to some fellow travellers. One who offered me, well, insisted that I take some sunflower seeds. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
How long are you travelling here?
Here for another couple of days and then off to Georgia. And then
How old are you?
38.
38? 38. Sorry, I had to translate.
Thirty-eight?
She said you look very young.
Oh,
38?
thank you.
Is 38?
38, yes.
38.
Nice, Jayla.
Yeah.
She found husband.
So yeah, I had some sunflower seeds to keep me going for the afternoon. Shnohakulutjan. That's thank you in Armenian. I had a quick look around the base of the hill, but there wasn't much else to see for me.
Scorpions? No, thank you. Keep my eye out for them.
After another 40 minutes or so on the road, I took a short stop here at the Azat Reservoir. You can go down to the bottom, but my research had told me that the car I had wasn't the best equipped for the journey down there, so I didn't chance it. It was still a gorgeous view from the top. From there, I went to Garni to see the temple. Not too far from Geghar, I'd just not managed to squeeze it in the day before. As it is today, is actually a reconstruction of the original temple, which collapsed during an earthquake in the 17th century, using parts of what was left with modern materials to finish it off. Another impressive structure in Armenia, again with impressive surroundings. For me, the outside is what you're there for, with there not being a lot to the inside of it. I'd spied some stalls on the way in selling a cake that I wanted to try, so I got myself a piece on the way out. This cake is called gata, with this decorated variety being of the Garni and Geghar area. I got a quarter piece, which was more than enough for me at just over £2. That might be expensive for a piece of gatta, but it was a fair price to me.
Oh, thank you. Cool. Bye. Ciao. Why did I say ciao? I'm not Italian.
Back to the car to head back to Yerevan. On arrival back in the capital, the neighbours' dogs weren't particularly happy to see me. Back in the apartment, I could try some gatta. Not the whole piece though, let's make that clear. And some Fanta. Nectarine? Peach? Not sure. It was nice though. Out to dinner again. In the centre I came across these mushroom lights. Don't know if they represent anything, but I thought they were neat. Another beer. And what would you know? Some more grilled meat. Chicken this time with lavash bread again. I also had a different style of khachapuri, this one like a small baguette with the cheese on the inside. Not sure exactly what type of khachapuri this one was though, as it was just called grilled khachapuri on the menu. I walked off dinner with another venture around the city centre. Overall, Yerevan was quite a modern, vibrant city, with lots of restaurants and bars and always something going on. One more beer, then it was time for bed. The next morning was another early start for me. Not as early as for the chickens. And as I no longer had the hire car, I went to get a taxi to take me here, the Armenian Genocide Memorial Complex. The memorial itself overlooks the city, while there is a garden with trees planted to commemorate the victims. Within the memorial site lies an eternal flame, dedicated to all those that lost their lives in the genocide. There's also a museum which I spent time in, reading up on the history of what happened. If you're ever in Yerevan, I would highly recommend investing a few hours of your time to come here. I walked down from the memorial complex towards the city centre, passing by this brandy distillery on the way. Brandy is a popular drink in Armenia. I'm not a fan personally, but if that's your thing, you'll probably be onto a winner here in Armenia. Upon arriving back in the centre mid-afternoon, I'd planned to go for food a bit later, but then I walked past where I wanted to go anyway, so I just went in. Why a Hard Rock, you ask? Well, if you've seen my Andorra video, I didn't answer that question then either. I will one day. I have plans for that, so wait and see. This Hard Rock held more significance to me, as a drummer, than most others I've been to in the past. Yes, you had the usual array of paraphernalia from famous musicians around the world, including a guitar from Slayer's Kerry King, of which I used to own a budget version. But what I came for was prominently displayed hanging from the ceiling. Those lights are all symbols, specifically Zildjian symbols. For those that don't know, Zildjian are one of the biggest cymbal brands in the world of drumming. They were founded by an Armenian man called Avidis Zildjian in 1623, a metalsmith and alchemist who worked for the court of the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire in Constantinople, or Istanbul today. The name Zildjian itself means son of a cymbal maker, with Avidis' father also being a cymbal maker. The company is now based in the US, but is still run by members of the Zildjian family. I was always a Sabian man, but until researching Zildjian a bit more thoroughly for this video, I had no idea that Sabian was actually a Zildjian company, technically. Founded by a member of the same family, Robert Zildjian, who left in 1981 to set up his own company. The biggest history dump in the whole video, and it's about drums. Don't worry, I'm done now, we can move on. So yeah, I was in the Hard Rock. Sadly no local burger in this one, so I had the Pittsburgh burger, which I think won their World Burger Tour competition. It was fine. Some more wandering around the city centre after that was needed. And while I don't have any footage of it, I met a fellow amateur photographer called Armand. He took my picture as you can see on your screens now, so I took his in return. We exchanged numbers with each other so we could send our respective pictures to each other. I've put his Instagram profile in the description down below, so if you want to get a good idea of what everyday life is like in Yerevan through photography, go check it out. This is the St. Astavatsasin Church, apologies for the pronunciation there, which unlike the other churches I've been to, I didn't have to drive to get to. Lovely interior as always, however this main part, called St. Anna, is very modern, having been completed in 2014 after 3 years of building. The smaller part next to it is the old part, dating back to at least the 13th century. See that guy in the blue checked blazer? You'll see more of him in a second. So there I was, outside, minding my own business, and that guy must have seen my camera and assumed I could do a job for him. Despite the language barrier, I somehow found myself filming some bits for his socials. His name is Caro, a barber by trade, and like with Armand, I've popped the information for his socials in the description below. He was very particular about what he wanted, and I don't think I exactly met his brief, but some of what I shot for him made it to his Instagram at least. After that, it was my last sight of the day, the Caucasus Art Centre. It was shut to go inside for the entire time I was in Armenia, but I could at least see the many sculptures on the outside, along with the gardens. Also these things again. I saw some in Andorra earlier this year as well. It's no surprise that this structure is so popular with tourists and locals. The views you get over the city are fantastic, and they get better the further up you go. That's Mount Ararat again in the distance. I continued up, determined to reach the top, which I did. I then saw that there was another, much smaller structure further up for an even higher view, so up I went. Look at that. That's the Mother Armenia statue that sadly I didn't get to see up close, a symbol for peace through strength. The only bad thing about climbing up all this way for the views was that I had to go all the way back down. I did it in stages though, taking in the sunset on the way. There was time for one last dinner in Yerevan, a pina colada, local football on the TV, and some more grilled meat. A taxi back to the apartment, and while the sun had set on my time in Armenia, it wasn't the end of this adventure. Another one added to the board.
Bosh.
That's all for this video, but if you liked it, be sure to keep tuned for the next one in the series where I'll be in Georgia. Have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.